Good afternoon, everyone. I'm out this afternoon doing a 7-mile hike and out and back. And I'm going to take this opportunity to talk to you guys. Do you know that we all have a superpower? Many are not aware of it. It lies dormant in all of us. And the reason why is because we are all created in the image of God. In Scripture, there was a woman who was caught in adultery. And you can read about her at John chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. And the teachers of the law and the Pharisees had caught her in adultery and had condemned her to death by stoning. If you know the story, you know that Jesus comes along and he saves that woman's life. And there were a lot of people present who had stones in their hands, from the old to the young. Then Jesus says something very profound. He says, "Let the one without sin cast the first stone." Well, the oldest left first, then to the youngest. See, those who were the oldest had accumulated in their lives a lot of sin because they're older. Then the only persons left in that scene was Jesus and that woman caught in adultery. Then we read at verse 10, Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" The woman answers, "No, sir." "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." Now, that doesn't mean that that woman will never sin again. Jesus says to her, leave your life of sin. We're going to sin. Every day we wake up, we don't know what that day holds. You may have an impure or an immoral thought. You may say something that you should not have said. We are going to sin because we are imperfect creatures for the time being. Becoming a Christian and reading the Bible and all that, going to church, doesn't make you sinless. So let's reason and think here. Did Jesus forgive that woman caught in adultery? Yes, he did. Because he told her, go now and leave your life of sin. And we previously read there that Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Recorded at John chapter 3, verse 17 is one of Jesus' teachings. And Jesus taught that for God did not send his son. See there? God did not send his son, so that shows that Jesus is not God. But God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Jesus also taught at Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute you. One of the most difficult things to do is to love those who hate you and even to pray for them. Yet, is that not what Jesus did on his last moments of life? Jesus asked the Father to forgive his persecutors and those who would put him to death. Why? Because they know not what they do. So Jesus backed up the things that he taught. And he expects those of us who are his disciples to do the same thing. And recorded at Matthew chapter 7, verse 5 is another one of Jesus' teachings. And there Jesus says, you hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So it is hypocritical for any of us to point fingers at others as if somehow we ourselves are so self-righteous and perfect. None of us are righteous, and none of us are perfect. The Apostle John wrote in 1 John chapter 4, verse 20, whoever claims to love God, yet hates a brother or sister, is a liar. Whoever does not love their brother and sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God, whom they have not seen. Now, like that woman who was caught in adultery, tdjakes, and many of you know who tdjakes is, got caught up in something. He got caught. Now, would Jesus condemn him? No. Would Jesus forgive him? Yes. Recall, Jesus was not sent into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world. And he did not condemn that woman caught in adultery. He saved her life. So Jesus would say to tdjakes and to others and to us too, if we sin and make a misstep, go and leave your life of sin. Why is it so difficult for the many to follow Jesus' example? It is because they've been conditioned by a religious system to do otherwise. That's why. And why are they so quick to point fingers and condemn? Quick to, as they say, call them out. Are these not your brethren in the Lord? There are imperfect men and women who stand up there on the pulpit. They huff and puff, they got their chest all stuck out, and they give people the thoughts of men. They don't teach Christ. They teach how they feel and what they believe about something. Remember what the Apostle John wrote. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or a sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God, whom they have not seen. As I mentioned earlier, we all have superpowers. And why? Because we were created in the image of God. Most do not use them because they're not aware of them. They have not practiced using them. And many don't even know about them. Two of which are love and forgiveness. These are superpowers, love and forgiveness. Why use the devil's deceptive superpowers of condemnation and hate? We are to love and be kind to one another, even to those who do not like us or who may even hate us. As recorded in Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 and 2, Jesus taught, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." God will test us to see if we obey his command to listen to his son and do as his son commanded and directed us. Jesus taught forgiveness and not to judge. Many have failed that test. They are overly self-righteous. If one is unwilling to forgive others, even their enemies, and those who hate them, then one's worship is in vain. As God spoke through his prophet Isaiah, at Isaiah chapter 29, verse 13, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules." Now, Jesus quotes Isaiah in Matthew chapter 15, verses 8 and 9. Many of those who stand on the pulpit and yell at the people seem to want to make a name for themselves. They want praise and amens from people. And when the people give them those things, those persons continue on their course of self-edification. They rarely speak of love and forgiveness. I see a lot of finger pointing, a lot of it, a lot of judgment, a lot of condemnation, a lot of "I'm righteous and you are not. There's something wrong with you, but nothing wrong with me." There's something wrong with all of us. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what that is. We are all sinners, all of us. No one is exempt from being a sinner or continuing to sin. I do not believe that we need to be preachy. Some people might. Some might even find it entertaining. And I believe that's why a lot of people go to church, to be entertained, to hear gossip and tabloid, and to hear preachers talk about others. Yes, some might find that standing in a pulpit and having someone yell at them and quoting scripture and condemning others is preaching. But this is nowhere in scripture. I believe that most people want to be respected and talked to and heard. We can be quiet and listen to persons as they're speaking. That doesn't mean that we have to agree with the things that they say, but we can listen. Listening is an activity, and it requires exercise to listen. It also requires restraint, to be quiet and let persons speak, in hopes that when it is your turn to speak, they will return the courtesy. If not, you're still teaching them. You're showing them that you're willing to show love towards them and be quiet and let them speak. Even if they're cursing you out, you can be quiet. Take the stripes. Are you not confident in what you believe with regards to Christ's teachings? And I certainly don't believe that people like to be talked down to. I see a lot of these preachers, and you guys know who they are. Many of them are in the mega churches, some are not, but they have very large followings. Some are up and coming stars, so to speak, and they love to stand up there with one of the eyebrows cocked up, like that Spock character on Star Trek, hurling condemnation and calling people liars and pointing fingers at others, and as if somehow they themselves have never sinned and will never sin. I hope you guys can see what's wrong with that. That is not the example that Christ set. And Jesus certainly did not teach that. No, I don't believe that we need to be preaching. I believe that people do like to be talked to and heard and to be reasoned with, not yelled at. I know with me, if you start yelling, what I hear is a bunch of noise. I know that you're speaking words, but you're yelling. But I hear noise, not words. Yelling does not get the point across. What I'm going to remember is that you are yelling. I also do not believe in the use of emotionalism. Emotionalism is a very powerful drug, a very powerful narcotic that breaks down thinking ability and reasoning ability. Once a person is made to be all emotional where they're crying and looking all messy, they're not thinking. They're in their feelings, they're in the emotion. And that is what a lot of these preachers and teachers serve up. They bank on it, they count on it because they know that if they can break you down emotionally, they can tell you and sell you anything and you will buy it. You see, if we wear Christ's teachings as if wearing fine clothing, you will shine. People will observe that you are different. Oftentimes, you don't have to speak a word. They will come to you. It is not so much what you say, it's what you do and how you are, how you look before people. Are you a good listener? Are you calm? Do you do your utmost to cultivate the fruit of the Spirit mentioned at Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23? And if and when people approach you because they see that there's something different about you and they're curious, then there's your opportunity to tell them the wonderful things of God without having to preach to them. They might want to get confrontational, but that doesn't mean that you have to. Remember now, if you are a follower of Christ, you are on full display before the entire world. And I guarantee you, if you mess up, someone's going to be on you and they're going to tell you about it. This is R. Jerome Harris, the disciple. Thank you for listening.